This is Jason David Frank, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are now on the inside of what I like to call the circle of trust.
We are all connected in the great circle of life.
You know something, Bert? What? I think you and I are going in circles.
It feels like we're going in circles.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Because it's a circle.
Yeah, we heard about the circle.
Yes, we're familiar with shapes.
Hi, this is Chuck.
This is Craig. And this is Dan. And we are Talking in Circles, brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network. The podcast that just keeps getting better as we return this week to one of our all-time favorite games, as we're going to be doing Fact or Fiction, the game that launched the podcast that we bring back periodically. We're doing it again. Let's just cover a variety of topics from a variety of different ways. We'll get to that in the second segment of this podcast. But before we get to that fun, how's the week been going for you guys?
The week's pretty good, I guess. I guess just a warning, I'll go into a little bit of basketball talk again real quickly.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, it's been a lot of trades going on. So
it's been a
trades,
firestorm
pickups,
in the
yeah.
NBA. I know the Bulls were, for a while there, sort of gutting their team. If anyone's unaware, I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan. Have been since I was a little kid. And even through the bad years, I stuck with them and everything. And I thought that more of those bad years were coming because they pretty much got rid of everyone on their team except Jimmy Butler, who's a very good young star in the league. And, in the last week, they signed a couple of guys that might actually give us hair's width of a chance of reaching the 8th seed of the playoffs, maybe. So it might not be a complete waste of season.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a chance. We also like to live dangerously. But they picked up a guy that used to be on the Celtics a while back. He became, I think, really well known on the Celtics. That was Rajon Rondo. He'll definitely help us. He's probably a little bit better than what we had. And then obviously the big pickup, I believe it was just a day or two ago from when we're recording this, was when I heard that Dwayne Wade is going to sign with the Bulls. And that's a huge pickup, even though he's a little older. He's 34 right now, but he's still a really top-notch player. And the good part is he's from Chicago. He was born and raised there and everything. So it's kind of like similar to the LeBron story with him coming back to his hometown. This is Dwayne Wade coming back to his hometown. So maybe we can work a little magic and at least make a half-assed playoff run. I know we're not going to have a chance of winning anything, but
I didn't realize he's from Chicago, so that's intriguing.
Yeah. But point is, I thought that this season was going to be a complete waste of time. We'd have about 9 wins, but it looks like we might actually be halfway decent. Might be worth watching a little bit. So I'm less disappointed than what I was.
Yeah. It's weird when you hear 34 and it's like, man, he's old. It's like, really? 34?
I know.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm almost 35.
Are you saying my chances of making the NBA are becoming slimmer and slimmer? Man,
yeah.
I thought I still had a shot. But Greg, how things going with you?
Pretty boring, but still getting stuff done. Did some smoking this weekend. Had a really nice pulled pork coming out of that situation. So very excited about eating pork that I had already, and looking forward to smoking more this weekend, maybe, if the weather's good. And I'm drinking a Caprina, so this might get a little tipsy towards the end of the podcast.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we're recording this a few days after the end of 4th of July, which happened. It was a good time. I had a good 4th of July weekend. Was up at Scranton, as you probably noticed from last record, and met with a lot of family. Took my son to his fireworks for the first time, which he almost slept through. He looked up occasionally, but it was a good time. Now back home, getting excited for everything happening in July, which we'll get to. There's a lot of good movies potentially coming out. And when I actually was home, what was kind of cool is that my wife and I got the opportunity to go on a date, which we don't do very often because, with babysitters. But we went out and saw a movie that I found out you guys saw as well, was a movie I was quite anticipating, which was Independence Day Resurgence. I love the, big fan of the original, enjoy that movie. It's, it's a guilty pleasure, I guess you would say. But I know you guys saw it too. And I already kind of know Chuck's thoughts because we talked about it off air when we were meeting in real life. It was weird. Not used to that. But Greg, I was curious of what you thought of Independence Day Resurgence.
Yeah, I was looking really forward to it because I really thought the trailers could an interesting kind of concept for a story going on, that they're coming back and everything. It didn't really meet my standards, but I thought it was pretty good. Definitely not as good as the first one, but I think it was watchable and enjoyable. I wouldn't say that everybody should go out and see it in the theaters. I don't think it's that great, but definitely a watch maybe on like Netflix or something, or from the Red Box or something like that. I definitely would go see it just to experience it. It was enjoyable. It was kind of slow at the beginning. I think Chuck told me that a lot of critics panned it and said it was slow altogether. I thought it was just kind of slow at the beginning. Then it kind of picked up a little bit towards the end, and they're definitely trying to sell you some nostalgia with some of the moves that they make throughout it. But it was enjoyable.
Interesting. So overall, disappointing, but still enjoyed it, basically. So
yeah.
Chuck, what were your thoughts on Independence Day?
Well, I think I have a little bit of different view than you guys, and I think the big reason for that is that I went into this with extremely, extremely low expectations, just sort of based on some rumblings that I heard online. I didn't really read any articles or any reviews or anything, but just sort of some headlines that I was seeing, some tweets, different things like that, some posts, and people were saying like it's the worst movie of the year so far. It's absolutely terrible. And it's this, it's that, and I just kind of was thinking like, oh no, here's this movie that I was really looking forward to, based on how much I enjoyed the original from my childhood, and I was kind of worried, that it's going to be really, really terrible. So I went in with literally like zero expectations. I was expecting this to be terrible, and I think that's the reason why I ended up loving it so much. And I'm not really sure why, but I actually really, really dug this movie. I really dug the story. For whatever reason, I thought the story was sort of well thought out, sort of well developed. I liked a lot of the directions they went in. For me, a lot of things clicked logically, a lot of things that made sense to me of how things had progressed since the last movie, as far as things with the Earth technology, things with the aliens, and the things that we learn that sort of happened since that time. And a lot of those things just sort of logically made sense to me, and I really didn't have a problem with them at all. Obviously, there was some issues. You could say there was some physics that were ignored for sure. But I feel like that's the case with any either disaster movie or a lot of even just action movies in general. But talking about things like the huge spaceship, like obviously they made this one, like they had to go bigger, so they made this huge 3,000-mile wide spaceship, and something that massive landing on the Earth is essentially like the weight of another continent, and would sort of throw the Earth's rotation off, maybe change some degrees. He's talking about changing some climate patterns and stuff like that. They didn't really get into that stuff, but I don't think they had to. I think there was obviously some things they ignored.
They definitely did infer that something was going on because of the mass size of it, though.
Yeah,
they didn't go as far as that, but they went kind of in a different direction with it. So I think that was kind of acceptable.
Right. Like I'm thinking too. Like even after, spoiler alert, they beat the aliens. In case you know. But even like after they win and the ship would have left, there would still be lasting effects on the Earth if it was thrown out of rotation or slightly out of orbit by a half a degree or something. There'd be this huge impact and everything. But I don't really think they had to get into stuff like that, and even more technical stuff than that they could have gotten into. But I thought a lot of the stuff was really, really, really cool. I actually loved the idea of the Queen and her sort of having her own shield and stuff like that. And her being like huge, that made a lot of sense to me. I know as a culture, for some reason, we tend to equate aliens with a beehive for some reason. We just seem to do that a lot, but it just seemed to fit in this instance for whatever reason. I didn't think that was a big deal. I thought some of the speeches were a little bit corny. Some of those like intense moments, where we see the president from the first movie sort of speaking to motivate everyone again. And it's kind of like, yeah, we kind of heard this speech before. And it's like, it's kind of odd that he's able to just say like 50 words and motivate these people to, sacrifice their lives. But I think it's, you kind of quickly forget about it. So I didn't really mind that part, some of the bad parts. But, and I'm going to say, I think this film had actually a lot less problems than X-Men Apocalypse, in my opinion. Because going back thinking to my thoughts on that movie and all the things I was nitpicking about it, all the issues that I had with it, still have issues with this one, but not nearly as much. And I realize that it's not saying a movie is good by saying it has less problems than something else. I realize that, but I'm looking at the fact that, I enjoyed X-Men Apocalypse a lot, even with those problems. And in this instance, I thought it was a little bit better developed, and I did actually enjoy this quite a bit as well. So that's definitely worth noting. Also, I love some of the concepts that they put out there at the end of the movie, things that we learn about some other worlds and stuff, other places in the galaxy and stuff like that, without giving too much away. That stuff really interested me. Also, what also interested me was the fact that they sort of painted these aliens as basically harvesters, traveling from world to world, going through the galaxies, sort of consuming worlds. And I'm watching it, literally while I'm watching, I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a second, did they just do a better Galactus than Fox did in Rise of the Silver Surfer? Honestly, I think they sort of nailed that way better than Fox did, because their attempt was pretty pathetic. But yeah, I thought that was cool, the way they described them sort of taking the natural resources out of the core of the worlds and stuff like that. It's pretty neat stuff they really didn't explain in the first movie, of why they were there and what they wanted and stuff like that. It was all kind of just kind of guesswork and stuff like that. But yeah, is there a lot of corny lines that they sort of shoehorned in there just to call back to the first one? Yeah, of course there is. I had fun with a lot of them. Maybe some people didn't. But I think overall I enjoyed the intriguing aspects of the story. That was enough to sort of satisfy me and sort of overshadow some of the dialogue and some of the over-top action and stuff like that. Definitely not over the top as X-Men Apocalypse, in my opinion. Yeah, I think overall, I really, really, really enjoyed it. I did not expect to have that much fun with it, to be honest.
Interesting. Yeah, I am much different than you guys, because I was not a fan at all, to be honest. I guess, again, expectations could be part of it, because I knew that there were a lot of critics overall did not do well. Rotten Tomato score wasn't great, but I saw a lot of the more geek websites did rate it fairly well. I think IGN gave it a 7, Den of Geek, and some other ones, Empire. Ones I tend to somewhat agree with often. They tend to rate it what I would expect. Okay, it's the first it'll go around the same lines of the first one, and I didn't get that at all. And I think a big part of it was that I found none of the characters all that interesting or intriguing, and I thought the acting was pretty bland. Will Smith's son, for example, is just, I felt very forgettable.
I agree with that, Dan. He was not exciting at all. You go from Will Smith, who's very charismatic, to him, who's just kind of like a wet sock just sitting there.
There's a scene where not to spoil it, but someone important dies, and his reaction was so as if he just dropped a sock or something. It was just so, there was nothing there. It was, I know it's kind of tough because you're acting against nothing, because you're acting into blue screen, but even it was just, that didn't work for me. And Jeff Goldblum was fine, but I guess he didn't have I missed the chemistry. The characters themselves, I felt, didn't really intertwine as well as I would hope. I think what I enjoyed a lot about the original Independence Day was, you know, the interplay between like Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, both of those characters had really personality, and that was fun seeing them work together. Even Bill Pullman, like all these different like characters, and I think they tried, but none of them worked as well. Like there is this African warlord guy who just I found
the best in there though, acting wise, I think was Brett Spinner. I thought his character was awesome and the most enjoyable character in the movie, and I thought he did the best with his role.
That's the guy who plays Data.
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed him. He was probably like he larger than life personality. I didn't enjoy him. There's this one guy who's like, I don't even understand his purpose at all. He was like meant for like the comedic relief, who becomes like the partner of like the African warlord, who I found kind of infuriating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't like. It's just like every time he was on screen, every time he tried it, it felt
that was actually very annoying. Yeah.
The guy, it was not Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth's his brother. He was okay. Like he's basically been the same type of character in every movie, but he was fine. I thought, all except that the plot will be ridiculous. You know, the first one, they defeat the aliens through a laptop. I mean, I'm not expecting dedication to reality here, but the action wasn't. There was a few beats I thought were pretty good, like the one you see in the trailer. That is, you know, when the ship comes in, you see all basically the buildings like go up and then fall down. But I felt like that seems a little bit poorly directed, because it was hard to. It was such like everything happening at once, and it wasn't the point of like I really knew where I was at times. Where like I felt with the original Independence Day, you kind of knew like, okay, this is clearly we're seeing Washington D.C. get destroyed, we're seeing Los Angeles. With that, it was like all kind of chaotic at once. I was kind of confused because there's a character who gets kind of stuck in the middle of that, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just because of the scale of that ship that it just made it a little bit more harder to follow within that. But the scene itself is pretty intense. It reminded me of I don't know if you guys saw 2012, which is like similar, where everything is just going crazy.
I think that they were going for a scale thing there, like just to show how big the ship was, because you see them sort of like they actually, if I'm not mistaken, it trashes the building in Dubai, the one that's like the tallest building in the world, and then like a little bit later, you know, they're taking out the London Bridge. So it's sort of, you know, there's two cities that are like thousands of miles apart. I think they were going for the scale there, but I think it sort of backfired on them, because it just ends up being really chaotic, like you said, and you're kind of like not sure where they are.
Yeah. I did like the potential where it could go, because I didn't know this would be setting up potential future films. I don't know if that's going to happen, because I don't think it did as well as they would hope. I don't know about how well it's doing overseas, but I did like that idea and what that could lead to. I did like the Queen having her own shield, and that was a cool little twist, because when it did get me when I thought, okay, well, it ended there. I'm like, okay, that seemed a little anticlimactic. That seemed a little bit too easy, and then it does gonna go further. I'm like, okay, at least I'll give it that. I did think it went a little bit better there, but
yeah.
Ultimately, I think the thing that hurt it the most for me is just it was missing the characters, and I think, you know, having a Will Smith would have been helpful. I think it would have, given the movie a lot of life. I think that's what the one piece it was missing. It was missing that charismatic hero, and they try to do it by getting two people with that role, and I think neither of them really stood out to me. But
I can definitely agree with that. I think they sort of tried to fill that gap with too many people. You know, like you said, the warlord, the annoying little accountant guy or whatever he was, the girl, the daughter of you know, the ex-president and stuff. Like, it was just like nobody could like step in and sort of fill the shoes, and I totally get that. That was a major sort of a glaring weakness in the movie, but I will say I did thoroughly enjoy, once again, Jeff Goldblum's character's father.
Oh, okay.
I thought those were some great moments where, you know, he's driving the school bus and stuff like that. I thought he was really, really good. I actually would have liked to seen him in a few more scenes, because I think in the first one he was a bigger part of it in certain spots too. So I would like to seen a little bit more of him, because I thought he still kind of brought the same charisma that he had in the first one. Jeff Goldblum even seemed a little bit dry in this, a little bit bland, but like you pointed out, he didn't really have anybody to interact with on the level of the first one. So
yeah, and I agree with you regarding the concept of, you know, how like the world has developed. Like I did really like the design of the ship they had. It was a lot of I feel like a lot of spaceships tend to look a lot alike. There's not anything new, and it was like almost like a pseudo transformer where it like had arms that you could use.
Yeah.
So I did like that design, and the weapons themselves and like the way the world is advanced was interesting. Though it feels like every helicopter was designed after Marine One, and like it looks like everyone was, I don't know what but if they made another one, I would see it. I don't know if it was just because I was hoping that it would. And maybe my mistake was I watched the original like not that long ago, and I was maybe thinking of getting something along the same lines, and it was not that. So, but anything else you guys want to say regarding Independence Day? I'm actually kind of surprised it did not do nearly as well as it did in the box office. I thought it was going to be like Jurassic World and like kill it, but I don't know. It did okay, but it was not near the level that I was anticipating. I don't know why that is, but Greg, I do know also, besides watching Independence Day, you read a book. I don't know if you want to discuss that here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I read a book because I was busy the one morning. I got up at like 3 a.m. to put the pork butt on. So I, from like 6 until like 1 o'clock, I finished an entire book. So that tells you how good it was that I finished it kind of in one sitting. I'm going to read the Google Books summary for it real quick. Now well into her apprenticeship with magician Emery Thane, 20-year-old Sione Twill is continuing to discover the joy of paper magic. She adores bringing her spells to life in surprising ways, from learning the power of distortion to creating a beloved paper dog. And she secretly hopes that the romance she foresaw blossoming between her and the peculiar yet strikingly handsome Emery finally becomes real. But when one magician with a panache for deadly scheming believes that Sione possesses a secret, he vows to discover it, even if it tears apart the very fabric of their magical world. After a series of attacks target Sione and catch those she holds most dear in the crossfire, she knows she must find the true limits of her powers and keep her knowledge from falling into wicked hands. And it's a delightful sequel to Charlie N. Holmberg's The Paper Magician. The book I read is called The Glass Magician. It kind of, I'm not sure what the types of books that the people like to read that are listening to this. I'm not sure if people are into romance novels. It kind of slips into that every once in a while, and it's like schoolgirl crush that you hear about constantly in there, which for me kind of takes away from it. I'm not into that kind of stuff, but the magical element definitely precedes everything else, and there's a lot of fun stuff going on in this book. It's not on the level of Harry Potter kind of with the action going on, but there is a lot of serious circumstances going on, and you feel threatened for the character that you're following. You're feeling for Sione and Emery, and you feel like they're in real danger all the time. It's definitely like the last movie book of Harry Potter, where there's a lot of people dying, there's a lot of blood and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more serious in that respect. Harry Potter is definitely the more fun, magical element going on. It's an interesting concept with this book, because it's everybody kind of has like magic over certain things like paper, glass, rubber, and then the main villains have like a panache for magic with blood and like human like stuff like that, like, well, just blood, I think, for the most part, from what I understand. And so they're kind of the villains of the story, so that definitely adds an interesting concept into there. So the writer of this book definitely takes this in interesting directions with the magic. So I think that's a lot of fun, and it's very enjoyable. Like I said, it was a pretty quick read for me, and to be able to keep my attention for one full sitting is I think it's a very good book. So definitely check that out if you have the chance. I think I got it on Kindle for like really cheap on a sale somewhere. So
just hearing all the use of different elements, have you watch that show? Is it at all related to or any along the same lines of that, like Avatar, Last Airbender show? Because I know that also like deals with elements. And
No, I think it handles it differently. I think that's more of mystic.
Yeah.
This kind of has more of an academic kind of feel to it, kind of more like Harry Potter, where the girl is going through like a magician apprenticeship to this Emery Thane. She kind of, in the first book, she kind of realizes that she's fallen in love with her professor, essentially.
As one would do.
Yeah. And so this kind of deals more with that relationship of her falling in love, but she's learning magic, and so it's definitely more academic than kind of like a fighting style mysticism type of thing.
Interesting. Okay. And I think last time I remember you talking about the first one, and I think I may have asked you exactly the same question. So
it's cool.
I need to step up my game a little bit, but
I'm just surprised you remember me talking about the first one, because I do not remember talking about the first one.
You edit the podcast as much as sometimes I have to. It things stick in your head, but
yeah. But it's a very, very cool concept, and so if you could if you could kind of get through those little romantic parts, which I don't care for too much, it was a really enjoyable book.
And if my wife's listening to this, she's probably like, maybe I should make a podcast of telling you to close closet doors, and then that would make me do it, and maybe that's the case. So we'll see. But all right, anything else before we take a quick break? Alrighty, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we're coming back, we are playing the often duplicated and often replicated game of fact or fiction. We'll see you in a bit.
Pixels in the Animation is the Geekcast Radio Network's video game cartoon review show. We are covering every episode of 9 different video game cartoons. Join TV's Mr. Neil and myself, TFG and Mike, as we trek through multiple Mario tunes, Zelda, Captain N, Mega Man, Sonic, and we are also driving through Donkey Kong Country. Pixels in the Animation is 100 episodes of video game cartoon goodness, so tune in to help us find the Pixels in the Animation, which you can find every Wednesday on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com.
All right, and welcome back. Yes, today we are going to be playing the good old game of fact or fiction, and if you've never heard this game before, well, it's pretty straightforward. All we do is going to throw out some statements of random things, from comic book news to movies to TV to sports to what have you, to random facts, and ask, is that statement fact or is it fiction? Simple, straight to the point. It's the way it goes. And I think I will actually, I have one for all of you, and we can maybe start with this one. You know, we were talking about Independence Day. You know, that was a 90s property that we known and love, and it's coming back, and last year we had Jurassic World. Well, another 90s property that we're going to see come back in the upcoming future is that, of course, of the Power Rangers. I know we've heard some news. Bryan Cranston's going to be playing Zordon. Elizabeth Banks is playing Rita. You know, it seems like they're getting some legit actors. So I guess my statement is, fact or fiction, Power Rangers will be the success we wanted the Turtles films to be. Fact or fiction?
I'm waiting for who's in Game of Thrones. He's a little person.
Peter Dinklage?
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to cast Peter Dinklage as Alpha.
We all know that Chuck should really do the voice, and just that should really be it, right?
Yes.
Zordon! Ay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot better than the Turtles movie. I think they might have a better grasp on what people are going to be looking for and what their fan base is. I think because maybe it is so niche, and plus they're getting incredible actors as opposed to Megan Fox, who's good to look at, not good to watch, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think it'll be better than the Turtles movie, and at least hold up our childhood better than that terrible turtle abortion.
Chuck, what do you think?
This is funny because actually I had a very similar question on my list. But yeah, I totally agree. I say fact. It will be everything that we wished the Turtles movies were. I got to admit, I did not see the second Turtles movie yet.
I've heard almost universally that people said it's much better than the first one. So, to be fair.
Oh, okay. Well, I might give it a chance then. I was going to say really have no intentions of watching it, but maybe I might check it out one day. But from seeing the first one, I definitely think this Power Rangers movie has got to be better. It's got to be. I mean, it's just there's nowhere to you can't go any lower. I mean, so I think the costume designs are pretty cool. Obviously it's not completely retro like how the original ones were. But it's a little bit more modern feel to it. Even the villains, I think, have a little bit more modern look to it and stuff like that.
Oh, do they have pictures out of the villains?
Well, just Rita, and I'm not sure if there was another character. I know there's a picture of Rita though, but she looked pretty cool. And Rita Repulsa is actually gonna be hot this time around, so that's good.
What do you mean this time? Come on now.
Nothing against the previous actor, but I am a Elizabeth Banks fan. She's very cute.
Very annoying in those what the hell commercials? They're Payless commercials. Good lord.
Oh, so I like her in the
realty ones.
The real estate ones. I think she's super cute.
Yeah, she's cute in the realty ones. Super fucking annoying in the Payless shoes.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to see how she does. Like, I mean, I don't know about her history with like eccentric characters because like in the Hunger Games, I wasn't the biggest fan of like that particular character in the Hunger Games. I thought it was
you're not supposed to be. She's a complete dick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just even as that, like I know what they were going for. It just I don't know. I just didn't like it at all. Like, but this certainly. I mean, this version could be different than the original Rita, but she was certainly a very eclectic sort of character in the original Power Ranger show. So I'm sort of interested to see your take on it. But yeah, I think it's got to be better. I'm actually really excited for it. So
I guess I'll make it 3 for 3. And again, I feel like the actors are getting it. I think it's kind of cool that they got Bryan Cranston because he did do voices for the original show back in the day, the first few episodes. I know he did the first, like the pig guy and a few others, which is kind of cool.
I like the pig guy one.
Yeah.
I like how we call him the pig guy, not even by his real name, which I don't even know still.
Yeah.
I'm going to look that up right now.
And, Elizabeth Banks, I do feel like, I do think she can be funny. I thought she was pretty good in the Pitch Perfect movies. She has a pretty good role in that. And she directed the second one, which was pretty good. So I feel like if she can get that type of sensibility, it's much different than the Power Rangers role, but I think she kind of understands, okay, it knows what it is and it's going for it. So I do feel like this, it seems like it's not going to take itself too seriously. It doesn't seem like it's at all connected to Michael Bay, from what I know. So, the Zords won't have a bunch of sharp edges, and as we've learned in our different adventures.
The guy is Pudgy Pig.
Okay, I think mine was actually better. So, but
I'll call you Pig Guy.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't the costume picture. I'm okay with. It's hard to tell because it's obviously a stylized photo, so you don't really know what it's going to look like in the actual movie. It's kind of hard, but
yeah, because we've kind of freaked out about the apocalypse thing and ended up looking totally different. So
yeah, so
I'm just happy that Rita does not have the giant cone breasts sticking out. So that's a good
Come on, Madonna is still very in.
Yeah.
She wasn't in when the original Power Rangers came out, so she was already out.
All right, Chuck. Well, since I stole one from you, do you have another one?
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Well, let's go with another movie franchise that will be coming out soon. This could be for either one of you. Craig might have a little bit more of an opinion on it, but fact or fiction, the new Ghostbusters movie will be a complete abomination.
Damn it! I have a similar kind of question.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be awful. I'm still gonna go see it.
I love that.
So they've won, Greg. They've already won.
I know. They've got my money.
Oh, that's funny. So you go in fact, it's gonna be an abomination?
Yes.
I'm gonna go fiction. I don't think it's gonna be a complete abomination. I know I don't have much evidence to support that theory because the trailers haven't been fantastic. The new song is pretty bad. I don't know why they needed to make that, but
God awful.
Yeah, it's like, let's get Fall Out Boy and Missy Elliott. Like, what dartboard did you throw at to come up with that combination?
Yeah.
So
freaking lawn darts.
Yeah, so that's not great, but do enjoy the director's movie, Paul Feige. I did like, Bridesmaids. Spy last year was much better than I anticipated. It was a good action comedy, which I think this could be, and in The Heat was okay. I know Melissa McCarthy gets kind of ragged on for being the same thing in every movie, rightfully so often, but I'm more interested in seeing, because I'm a huge Kristen Wiig fan, and is it Kate McCucci? Is that the other one?
No, Kate McKinnon. Kate McCucci is much smaller, meeker looking person.
I always mess up their names. I don't know, but so I think it'll be okay. I don't think it's gonna like approach the original, but I think it'll be it'll be fine. But I think it's just going to, unless it's like amazing, I think people are going to kill it. But I think it's probably going to do well box office wise, because like Greg, I think just the curiosity enough is going to at least give it a pretty solid opening weekend.
I'm a terrible human being.
I think I have no problem with the cast that they have picked, really. Like, I shouldn't say no problem, but I really don't have an issue with it. My issue with the trailers is that it just seems like they're trying to force a tremendous amount of comedy into this.
Yes, by screaming a lot?
Yeah, and I'm not sure that that's going to work, like, at all, really. Like, I don't know. I feel like the original, it was just sort of sprinkled in there at opportune moments, and it worked really well. And plus you have the genius of Bill Murray anyway. But I feel like this is sort of going to be forced, and it's just going to be like kind of like all over the place. I don't know, just a big mess. But
yeah,
Greg will have to give us some feedback on it, because I am not going to see it.
I was going to say, like, it's funny that Greg thinks it
compels you
the worst of it, and I'm not going to go see it, but Greg is, so I won't see it in theaters.
Yeah.
I just don't.
I'm going by myself, so that's going to be awful in itself.
All right, Greg, I know, again, so I stole one from Chuck. Chuck stole one from you. Do you want to try to steal one from me?
I guess I'll go with this one, which I guess somebody would say, more high-profile athletes blew off body parts this 4th of July.
That's funny. Cause
Damn it, you stole one of mine now.
Yes!
Welcome to Facts or Fiction Stealing Edition.
That's funny because Chuck sent me a meme of Jason Pierre-Paul, like I saw one that was like of him with his club hand saying, "This is Jason Pierre-Paul. Reminding you to always be careful when playing with fireworks."
Dan, I don't know if you realized that picture I sent you, but that was the picture of Chubbs from Happy Gilmore.
Oh, really?
He had the wooden hand.
No, I didn't. I missed that completely. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and he had the cardigan sweater, but they put Jason Pierre-Paul's head on the body instead.
That's amazing.
He had the fake hand like Chubbs.
But I'm going to go with a fiction, because I feel like that people maybe have learned the lesson of Jason Pierre-Paul and decided not to blow off their hand this 4th of July.
I'm going to go fiction because I know for a fact that people have not learned that. Well, that was weird. I'm going to go fiction because I know for a fact. But I know for a fact that people have not learned from it. Not necessarily high-profile athletes, but just sort of everyday people. I heard this story with it's very unfortunate. I'm not trying to make light of it at all, but the sheer stupidity of people never ceases to amaze me. There was a teenager that tied together 200 sparklers.
Wow.
And even though sparklers are really on the low end of the totem pole as far as fireworks, you go tying 200 of the things together, you got to kind of think maybe there's a chance something could go wrong. And so he put 200 of them together, and they ended up blowing up in his face, and he had like severe burns all over him and stuff like that. I'm just like, why would you even want to do that? Why would you even want to screw with something that's literally gets hotter than your oven in your kitchen? Like, I don't know why you would even want to take a chance with it. Like, pick something, either leave it to the professionals or get something with a really long fuse, because anytime you have to light something and then sprint away from it, I mean, you got to kind of realize that that's not an ideal situation for yourself.
Yeah. It's insane. You see the one video, there's I think it's like a Roman candle or something, one of those, they set it off, they light it and they run away, but then they have a dog that comes and grabs it and it starts shooting at
I saw that same video.
Oh man.
It's pretty funny. It's a good
I
time.
saw this other video with, unfortunately nothing happened to this guy, but I don't know if it was those Roman candles or not, but I'm not like a fireworks expert, but there's ones that were actually like, they shoot out of these tubes, and there's like several of them stacked in a tube or whatever. Well, they took a bunch of these tubes and they taped them together so that there was space in the middle, and he actually slid them onto his forearms, like he sort of wore them like freaking RoboCop or something, and he's like shooting these fireworks up in the air with his arms because he has them. I'm like, yeah, that's a stupid idea. Like, what the frick?
Man.
I mean, of course, maybe after the video cut out, maybe he got horribly burned. I don't know, but in the video,
can only hope. I mean, no. So.
Ugh.
All right, Greg. I don't know what you were on. You fact or fiction on that one?
I have no idea about the actual numbers, but I'm hoping it's fiction. I hope people learn their lessons, especially athletes. Like, it's not worth it playing with this $5 firework for my couple $1 million contract. Like,
yeah. Can we also agree? Let's kind of just stop the fireworks that just make loud noises. Is that like, is that a thing we still need to do?
I was playing Star Wars Battlefront and a lot of fireworks going off, and it kind of added to the realism.
Well, there you go.
It was a lot of fun.
You get the vibration through there too.
All right. Well, bringing it back over to me, they kind of changed pace a little bit. So coming up, I know we talked about this much, but so Supergirl is going to be moving to CW. For those that don't know it, it was on CBS. It's leaving, and instead of being canceled, it's kind of being shipped off to CW. And also, there's news that Superman will be appearing. He's been cast and everything, so it's going to be an entire new universe, entire new show. I guess I don't know, but basically, CW is going to have a DC show every day of the week except for one. I think it's going to be crazy. So my thing is, fact or fiction, CW will combine all their universes to make one epic TV universe with both Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and whatever new show they create next year.
I'll say fact. I think that's kind of inevitable, kind of what they're going for. They've already got Flash into Arrow. I'm not sure if they did any into DC Legends yet. And they already had Flash over into Supergirl, I believe. They've kind of already did it once, so I think they're going to take it further.
Do you see that happening, Chuck?
So what exactly was your question?
Are they going to, because right now Supergirl and the other CW shows exist on two separate universes per se, different Earths or whatever you want to call it. Do you see that changing and them doing like a Infinite Crisis where it all becomes one concrete TV universe?
I do actually. I'm going to say fact. And my primary reason is that it was actually announced that I believe in December. So you're looking at being about halfway into the season. They're actually planning a huge 4-way crossover between the 4 shows. It's supposed to be massive. It's supposed to tie in every show.
Oh wow! They can actually show a 4-way on television.
No, Greg, that's not what we're talking about here. Although I'm sure you're interested in Emily Bett-Rickards and whoever else. But no, they're planning this huge crossover event with all 4 of the shows, and with it being on the same network, I can't see them not doing it. Like, it's right there, sort of the low hanging fruit. Like, why would you not sort of link it together? I know technically Supergirl is on a different Earth. I don't know what Earth it would be, but I think they're gonna create a more tangible way to try to go between and even have them showing up, because this is really their sort of bread and butter. This is what each show is feeding off of the other ones, sort of making the other ones better. It's bringing in viewers from that show, all the people that were on Arrow first kind of brought into Flash, and then you're sort of bringing in the Supergirl people now. I don't know if there's Legends of Tomorrow people. I don't think there are.
I've actually heard some people saying that they're very happy with Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I was at the comic book store, so
I stopped watching it after. I couldn't watch it anymore. I actually stopped watching all the CW shows. I just fell behind, but that one I stopped really early. I just every week I'm like, that's That's not a decision you would want to make. It's like
right. It's like, why do you travel to every decade and try to kill Vandal Savage? You know he regenerates. You're supposed to travel back in time, not going forward. Like, what are you doing? Because every subsequent decade they show up and he remembers them from the last time. It's like, why? Like, go backwards, not forward. Like, what are you doing? But anyway, yeah, I agree. I think they're gonna find a way to tie them all together.
Is there any worry that now that there's legitimately nearly every night of the week there is a comic book TV show, and then if you throw in like some of the other ones too, just thinking of that are out off network like Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the other ones that aren't superhero shows, but I guess maybe not count those. Is there a worry that with this and the movies that people talk about superhero fatigue, but is there a way that CW may be turning away fans, considering that they're just going to have so many shows that are dedicated to comic book properties?
I think comic book nerds have regenerative capabilities like Wolverine, so they just keep regenerating those muscles and they kind of grow stronger as time goes on, watching all the superhero stuff going on.
That could explain a lot. So,
interesting theory. I have another interesting theory. I think that the CW is very smart in setting this up because I think they're going to have a lot of disappointed and disgruntled fans from the movie universe that are going to come in and enjoy the TV universe.
Do you like it where they have it where it's like one day a week, or would you rather it like they condense it? And I guess they can't do one night because there's too many shows, but like having like a block of 2 nights a week or something like that. Do you think that would be better to kind of? Or do you enjoy the fact that every day you're going to have a superhero show to watch?
I think every day is a better format only because I think the tone of each show is completely different. If you look at Arrow, obviously dark, gritty, a lot of times depressing, things like that. The Flash is sort of fun-loving, a lot of joking going on anytime you have Cisco in there. And then you look at Supergirl, it's more like sort of happy-go-lucky, not so much like joking around and pranks and stuff like that, but it's just sort of like, it's more upbeat. It's sort of like a girl power thing. Not that that's a bad thing at all, but it's just...
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. I'll tell you what you want.
This is a completely different tone for those 3 shows. And Legends of Tomorrow is just sort of a spaghetti bowl to me because you don't even know what tone they have from episode to episode. There's like so many weird things going on. They try to throw in a random love triangle when you don't even need to. It's like, I don't know what they're telling, but yeah. But I think it's good having it on a different night because if you sort of stacked them up, I think it would sort of take away from the appeal a little bit.
Yeah, very cool. Alrighty, well, Chuck, moving back over to you. What do you got next?
Let's see. Let's jump back to the big screen here. And I'll talk about a film that's coming out at the end of this month, and one that I'm extremely excited for, and I believe Dan is excited for as well. And I think this will be mostly for Dan because Greg has not seen these. So, fact or fiction, Jason Bourne will be the last film of the franchise and the best.
Wow. I had a Jason Bourne question, a little different, which I can probably still do. So you almost stole mine. You came very close.
A little two-parter here, yeah. Sort of.
So it'll be the best film in the franchise, and sorry, what was it? The best film in the franchise and
the last.
And the last. I assumed Ultimatum was going to be the last, and then that didn't happen. I say fiction because I see them trying to possibly do the Jason Bourne and the. Maybe going back to the Jeremy Renner one and like combining them somehow maybe for the next one. I could see that potentially happening. And if, it's Hollywood, if this is successful, I could see it continuing. I don't think it's going to be the best one. I think it'll be good, but I don't know. It's going to be hard to beat Bourne Ultimatum for me. I find that movie amazing. So I'll go with fiction.
Okay, interesting. I think fiction as well, personally. I don't think it would be the best. I'm not even sure it'll be as good as the original one, Bourne Identity, for a variety of reasons. Being the 5th film in the franchise, the 4th one with Matt Damon, but it's hard to sort of keep up that level, as we all know, with a franchise. So I don't think it has much hope of being the best. It does have a chance of being the last one, but I think if it makes a crap ton of money, I do believe that they're going to pursue another one. So
you're correct, Chuck. I know nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I know nothing.
Well, then, Greg, since you know nothing on this one, we'll let you know something for the next one. What do you got next on your list?
I'm gonna stick with my 4th of July theme that I've got going on, and I'm gonna go with: are you guys sad that you forgot to watch the hot dog eating competition?
I know I forgot. I mean, I may have watched it. I'm gonna go with fiction because that kind of scares me that people can eat that many hot dogs and somehow live. So I'm gonna go with fiction. It's eating competitions to me are weird.
I'm going to say fiction. I'm not sad at all. I purposely did not watch it. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
See, I have like some weird fascination, like watching a car wreck or something, but I always forget that it's on every
That's about
year.
what it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I forget it's on every year.
To me, it makes about as much sense as tying 200 sparklers together and lighting it on fire. I don't know why you would force 70 hot dogs into your body. I don't get that. I actually believe that...
'Cause America, fuck yeah.
I actually believe that guy is probably going to die young, I think, because I think he's just absolutely destroying his body.
I want to join like a eating contest for like wings, but just join and like eat them for free. Like,
so you get the free wings.
And then not really even try. I'm like, I'm just here for the free wings.
We had a guy do that. It was a few years ago. There's a supermarket across from my office, and on Fat Tuesday, before Lent, they had a punchki eating contest, which is just sort of a donut that's sort of made out of like potato bread almost, and they're extremely heavy donut, like very heavy dough. But they had an eating contest with those, and you get this huge plate of them. I think there was like, I don't even know, like 8 of them on the plate or something like that, and there was one guy there that just casually kind of eating one, taking his time, and you get to keep the whole plate of them after you're done. So it's like very good strategy. Didn't care at all about the competition. So
it's like you came in last. Like, no, I'm gonna be able to walk away from this and not feel awful tomorrow. So I won.
Right. Well, the guy, one of my coworkers, did it, and I think he won actually. Because they had to go, he tied with another guy. They had to go into a sudden death, which is like ironic because it's like, please don't suddenly die. But they gave him this donut, and like whoever could eat it the fastest, like they had a stopwatch and they won. But like he was literally had like he was sort of in shock the rest of the day, just like from this like sugar. He was like drunk with sugar, basically. Like he said he literally felt like shit for the rest of the day. He woke up the next morning, felt just like a hangover. He said he felt terrible and he was never going to do it again.
Nice, very nice. Alrighty, well, bring it back over to me. So I'm going to, since you talked about Jason Bourne, I'll throw, not to just not include Greg again, but, feel free to chime in this one. You might be able to, Greg. But,
Faction.
Regarding Jason Bourne, You mentioned like it will be as good as the last one. My question for you is fact or fiction? If the most recent Jason Bourne is as good as or surpasses the quality of the other films, it will be the best action franchise ever.
Ooh, best action franchise. I guess that would exclude like sci-fi franchise. You're talking like just action.
Yeah,
sort of?
So I wouldn't include things like Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars, or more so just like, thinking of Fast and Furious, Mission Impossible,
Lethal Weapon,
Expendables, to possibly, I guess you can include the James Bond franchise as well.
I think I'm gonna go fact. I think if this is widely successful, I think it definitely, for sure, belongs sort of on a Mount Rushmore of action films, and I think it quite possibly could be the best. Because I mean, you start to look at some of the other ones. Like obviously, there's some classic like Lethal Weapon, but some of the later, even like the Taken franchise. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Taken. Love the first one, second one okay, third one okay. but you sort of see it sort of dropping off like that, and you see that with a lot of the action franchises. But I think the Bourne movies have really sort of kept it up throughout. So if this one can continue that trend, I definitely think you're right. It has a shot at being the best.
I'll go the opposite. I'll say fiction in the sense of I still think it's going to be difficult to surpass the James Bond franchise just because of its longevity. I mean, I think most consistent for sure because I don't think it has a bad film, but I think, to me, it would probably be, at least for this era, by far the best. I think it'd be better than that of the Fast and Furious. It'll be better than the Mission Impossible ones because I think wouldn't be a bad movie in it. And I think it's for its genre pretty remarkable. So,
but would James Bond be relying more on its popularity than quality, or do you think it's the quality as well?
It's a little bit of both. I think it still has quality in there too. Because I would say like From Russia with Love, Casino Royale, Skyfall. There are ones that I think that do supplant it as not just popularity but good movies. There are a lot of duds too, though. So. It's tough. I think its legacy maybe gives it a tad push, but if I'm, which one I feel like quality-wise is better, I probably would go Jason Bourne. But it's a tough argument.
Right.
I'm gonna say that Fast and Furious, the way they're like dealing those out, is gonna surpass everything with just the mass amount of quantity they have got going on. Just like one after another, after another, after another.
They need to kill that franchise. If we do SRD, if we do sequel, reboot, destroy, I'm voting destroy for Fast and Furious. That needs to come to an end.
Yeah, it's I mean, they got to go to the moon now. That's the thing. So
right. Vin Diesel will jump his car from the Empire State Building to the moon.
Don't tempt him. He probably would. So
right.
All right. Well, maybe we can make this the last round. Greg, Chuck, do you have another one to finish us up? And then,
I do.
Greg too, I guess.
This one's I'm kind of reaching here. This isn't really the most original question. And I'm not even probably the best qualified to answer it, so that's why I'm asking you guys. But fact or fiction, DC Rebirth is already more interesting than the New 52 ever was.
Man. Greg, you want to start with that one?
I just think for what they left us off with the first story kind of kicking all this off, I just think the ending of that made it more interesting than all of New 52. So, not that I'm knowledgeable about New 52, but I think that ending kind of left you off in a very interesting spot.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I was getting. Like Obviously, I haven't read a lot of New 52 stuff, but I read a couple of Rebirth issues so far, and it seems really, really intriguing. So, Dan, what do you think?
I'll go with fiction because I do think there are some good New 52 stories. Like I do think the new Batman and New 52 was good, and Aquaman as well. There were some good stories within that, and not that it. So I think because it wasn't all bad, I do think that Rebirth maybe has the opportunity to surpass it. But when New 52 did start out, I think it was overall, from what I can remember, mostly positively received. So my thinking is, well, maybe that will continue with like what it's only been a few months, so it's I think it's on good graces now. So it could end up going the way as New 52. New 52 had potential, but I think it was wasted. I do think this maybe has more potential, and I think it's doing smarter things, and it seems like it's really trying to get back to the core of what made DC great. I do agree on that end, but I would say I don't want to throw everything away when it comes to with the New 52, and think that there were some good stories that can't be ignored, even if overall maybe it was a failure.
Court of Owls.
Yeah.
Scott Snyder.
Yeah, I think Batman alone, I think was worth reading.
So if you were to recommend me, say, one trade paperback from New 52 to pick up, what would you say would be the one?
I would honestly go with Aquaman, the first volume of Aquaman, just because it's self-contained. Like the Batman ones, like you may need to know. Because the Batman was weird, where it kind of relaunched, but it didn't, and it was like that one was kind of hard to follow. But I felt the Aquaman was actually kind of started from the beginning and kind of really did kind of reestablish the character, and it was easy to kind of understand it just from that book. And I think the art's tremendous as well. I forget exactly who draws it, but maybe too I read that with very little expectations because I'm not an Aquaman fan, and I ended up like thinking, wow, this is really great, and it got me into reading it. And it didn't end great, you know. It got really kind of garbage after Jeff Johns, I think, left, but the first, I think, volume or two is quite good.
Cool.
All right, Greg, you got another one?
Yeah, speaking of New 52 and all that kind of fun stuff, and speaking of Batman, I found out that from my ex-next-door neighbor, Josh, who we've kind of talked about on the show previously, and we've kind of reconnected over last weekend or so, and you've probably seen us talking on Twitter if you're following us on Twitter. He told me that in Schenectady, Greg Capullo is going to make an appearance, who drew Batman, just got off his run with illustrating Batman for Scott Snyder and everything.
I think you should clarify what Schenectady is, because it kind of sounds like a medical procedure.
Schenectady is a town in New York. I'm not sure if mid-New York, a little bit further north New York. It's about 3 hours away from where Chuck and I live near Scranton. But do you think he's going to be at the Baltimore Comic-Con, which we're going to, and he's going to be at the New York Comic-Con, I believe. I'm not sure about that one, but he's definitely going to be at the Baltimore and Boston, I think. I think he's doing 2 cons that I'm going to be at. But anyway, is it worth it to drive the 3 hours to see Greg Capullo so then I have more time at other cons to see other people? I think that's fact or fiction. It's going to be, yes, it's worth my time.
This is Capullo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to get some stuff signed. I don't think he ever opens a sketch list at all. And by the way, I'm on 2 sketch lists already. I'm very excited. I'm on Jay Lee, who's done a lot of great cover work for a whole bunch of different titles. Very creepy, kind of horror-esque kind of look to the characters, very dark. And then there's Marcio Takara, who I haven't really seen a lot of work from, but I researched him, and he's got a cool art style. But beyond that, fact or fiction guy.
Well, I mean, one thing to definitely consider is, you know, if you want to see him at New York, we're only going to be there one day, and that's probably going to take a good chunk of your day waiting in line, probably for an hour or 2, most likely. But if you're going to be at Boston for a few days, you certainly would have a better opportunity there. But I don't know. I mean, 3 hours, that's a nice little road trip.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, is that the only thing there that you're interested in?
Yeah, it's a very like small. I'd probably think it's like the Scranton Comic-Con. It's only their second year doing it.
If you're a huge fan of him, I think I'm going to say fact that's probably going to be.
I mostly want to see him just because I have a couple Batman comics that are signed by Scott Snyder. So I'd really love to have like the team that worked on the book both signing the covers.
Right, and I know that's a really cool novelty, because on my Infinity Gauntlet ones I was able to get Jim Starlin and George Perez, and I was like all giddy with glee. But yeah, if you're a big fan, I say go for it, because you probably get a little bit better conversation with them in that smaller, intimate setting. So
definitely,
yeah, I'd agree with that, because I think, you know, you'd be waiting 3 hours if more so at a New York Comic Con or even a Baltimore Comic Con, because his line was gigantic. So, you know, you probably would drive more. You know, plus you can go and find out actually how to properly say Schenectady, which would be a bonus too. So
Schenectady.
Stop at the visitor shop and get like a little magnet or something.
I think I'm pretty good at saying Schenectady. I'm not sure if I'm exactly saying it right. Maybe if we have a fan in Schenectady, they could tell me if I'm doing it right.
I can't help but think it sounds like a medical procedure.
Yeah,
I just got out of the hospital, had a Schenectady.
I heard it was Synecdoche, because there's a movie called Synecdoche. Wow, that wasn't it at all. Snuffleupagus? No. Synecdoche, New York, that I thought. So I have no idea.
Guillermo del Toro? What?
Yeah.
Sounds like our local weatherman, Snedeker.
Yeah. Actually, no, I said that was like, I had a last one that I did want to throw to Greg since he didn't miss out on two, and I figured this one is specifically made for him because I think, I know you have played the Assassin's Creed video games, unlike Chuck and I. So my question for you is: fact or fiction? The Assassin's Creed movie coming out this year, starring Michael Fassbender, will break the trend, or will break the curse of the video game franchise, and actually be a good movie worthy of the property it's based on.
Fiction. It's a very complex kind of game. There's a lot of mythos, a lot of history that's been kind of altered. I just don't know how they're gonna convey all of like the gaming stuff to make it make any real sense. I do enjoy Michael Fassbender, even though I've heard that in real life he's kind of a douche, but he's a good actor. Like, I've really liked what he's done with Magneto and stuff, and in a lot of his other roles, he's really good. But I'm not sure if because this is more of a director thing, and I'm not even sure who the director is. I'd really like it to be really good. I do enjoy the Assassin's Creed games. I haven't like played the last couple because they're churning those out like every other year. They have another one out, and I've heard the quality has kind of gone down on them here and there. But I would like it to be good. I'll probably go see that one, but I don't think it's gonna break any records. I think it's gonna be a weird concept that's gonna be hard to get people in on.
Yeah, I again, I never played the game, so I have some hope. Cause there's a pretty good cast with Fassbender and Marion Cotillard, who's a good actress as well. But the trailer didn't really sell me all that well. I know there's like these two dueling timelines going on, and from what I read, majority of it takes place in present day, so that makes me kind of confused. So we'll see. But I think I thought Warcraft had a good shot, but it ended up not being that. I think it if anything, think that would have the best shot. If not, like they're doing like a Splinter Cell or movie, which might be. If at least they were. I don't know if they still are.
Well, the concept of Assassin's Creed is that you have this character in modern day life who kind of runs away from his family, and he's part of the assassins. And there's like an assassins versus I forget the other faction that they're against, but like the other faction kind of gets the guy that's ran away, and they kind of send him back into the bodies of his ancestors to kind of learn about the past that's gone on and change the past by sending his consciousness back into the bodies of his ancestors, essentially.
Interesting. Well, there you go. We'll see. We will.
But
see.
then there's this whole other premise of like aliens and like weird stuff like that going on. That
really,
that
aliens? I was not expecting that. That's like almost when you say aliens, I think
it's not aliens. It's like weird future us. Like it's definitely like past, present, future. Like a lot of that stuff going on. Like it's a very futuristic, intelligent beings, I guess you would say, not aliens, so to speak.
Interesting. All right, well.
So unlike Indiana Jones, they're going right for the aliens with the first installment.
Yes.
The last one.
All right, well, hopefully it's better than the crystal skull. That's all we get, or the plastic skull, depending. All right, well, we'd like to hear what you have to say regarding this episode. Feel free. There's a lot of ways of contacting us. You can do so by going to the episode post at geekcastradio.com, commenting there, or you can email us at feedback@geekcastradio or talkingincircles@live.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Talking in Circles GCRN. You guys are also on Twitter. What are your Twitter names?
I am at Heroic Age Chuck.
I am at the Crate Forge.
And I am at Movie Revolt. But that'll be it for this week. We'll be back next week. Same time, same channel, same podcast feed. But for now,
this has been Chuck.
This has been Greg, or the asshole that didn't write another Adventures in story for after our fun.
And this has been Dan, wondering the fate of Greg. And we've been Talking in Circles. We'll see you next week.
You actually predicted this in the last adventure.
I did. I knew I was going to be a lazy asshole.
To be fair, you were smoking meat.
Your character has
Yeah, I was doing a lot of stuff. I didn't even get to finish alphas. I had one episode left yet to watch, so I didn't get that finished.
To be continued next week.